Thank you. Well, call to order the fifth meeting of the Senate State and Local Government Committee. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Herron. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Mills. Senator Rawlings. Senator Tichenor. Vice Chair Elkins. Chair Nemus.
Present. Okay. Announcements are the block grant meeting is tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 4th at 9 a.m. in room 171. Reminders, please remember to silence your cell phones during the meeting. When explaining your vote, first cast your vote, then explain. We're going to go, the second item, go out of turn here. We're going to do Senate Bill 193. And since it's very simple and Senator Girdler couldn't be here, I'll kind of run through the bill. It's so that jailers will have a card that they carry in their wallet when they need to be outside the jail. And they used to do this, and Senator Girdler thought it was a good idea to do it. There's the fiscal impact note in your packet was pretty much zero. Anyone have any questions on this? Do I have a motion to? Do I have a second? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Elkins. Senator Herron. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Mills. Senator Rawlings. Senator Tichenor. Chair Nemus.
Aye. The bill passes 9-0, and we expect it to do the same on the Senate floor. So now we have, I see Senator Higdon just walked in, so we'll do Senate Bill 9.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Take me a second to get organized. I didn't realize.
I know you called me and I rushed you. You said, I'm going to be late. I said, no, you're not.
Well, when I walked in the door, I thought you were taking attendance, but you were doing voting on a bill. So anyway, thank you all for, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Want to hear today to talk about Senate Bill 9. And Senate Bill 9 will address the financial challenges of TRS and propose legislative solutions. Over the last several years, we have closely examined the funding levels of Teachers' Retirement System, TRS, and the reality that it's not as well funded as many may believe. Since 2016, the General Assembly has allocated billions of dollars into TRS, far exceeding the statutory requirements. Despite these record contributions, system funding level has only marginally improved, raising from 56.4% funded in 2016 to 58.6% funded in 2024. To be fair, assumption changes have impacted funding levels, but the numbers still remain concerning. Additional payments toward TRS liabilities began in 2016, with an extra $500 million per year contributed beyond the statutory obligations. Looking ahead, In just 2 budget cycles, projected payments for unfunded liability are expected to surpass $2 billion annually. That's $2 billion with the B every year to pay for the unfunded liability. And those payments are projected to continue to increase. More concerning is the fact that TRS has experienced an annual negative cash flow of over $900 million in recent years. This raises significant concerns because future General Assemblies are only required to make the statutory payments, and many new legislators were not present when prior commitments were made to fully fund pensions. In recent address to Kentucky retired teachers, Gary Harbin stated that TRS is in good shape financially as long as the General Assembly continues to make the payments. We need to provide clear guidance to school systems and TRS. The proposed bill does not reduce the number of sick or personal days teachers receive. Instead, it standardizes what TRS will cover. Effective July the 1st, 2026, this legislation will direct TRS to only cover up to 10 sick days and 2 personal days per year in retirement calculations, totaling a total number of 12 limit that can be calculated and used for final compensation. Schools can still provide additional leave days. They can provide all they want. But the school districts will be responsible for covering the additional costs for days allowed beyond the TRS limit of 12 days per year. Currently, Kentucky's 177 local school districts and co-ops have inconsistent policies. And we're part to blame because we put guardrails of what the minimum amount of sick days could be, but there was never a guardrail put in place for what the maximum amount of sick days and personal days would be. And there's really nothing in the statute that says that personal days or emergency days can be rolled into sick days, but that's kind of what's developed over the years. 13 districts allowed 10 sick days and 1 personal day. 52 districts allowed 10 sick days and 2 personal days. 97 districts allowed 10 sick days and 3 personal days. 15 districts offer even more, with emergency days rolling over to sick leave. We have several districts that allow as many as 16 days that can be used toward final retirement calculation. Some school districts allow administrators to roll annual leave they accumulate over beyond the 60 days allowed. They allow them, if they have extra days over the 60, they've been allowing them to transfer those to sick days. I assure you will not find any legislation that allows annual leave over 60 days to be used as additional unfunded benefits, but you also won't find any language that prevents these additional unfunded perks either. This bill will stop that practice. Additionally, there are over 30 state agencies associated with TRS that use annual leave in their final benefit calculations. Plus, there are 4 non-state agencies that participate in TRS, and we are paying their unfunded liability. Currently, we do not have the information on policies of many of these agencies. I have requested those. This is noteworthy that all state agencies other than TRS calculate annual leave as service credit, which does not create an unfunded liability or increase retirement benefits. The lack of uniformity creates disparity. Senate Bill 9 ensures that every teacher in Kentucky will receive equal treatment with 10 sick days and 2 personal days allowed to be rolled over into their final retirement calculation. This will also apply to annual leave and not allow that to be rolled into sick leave. If a district allows more, it will bear the associated financial responsibility. Plus, this directs uniformity among the agencies participating in TRS. FYI, in 2008, a limit of 300 sick days toward retirement was put into place. Those hired prior to 2008 can accumulate an unlimited amount of sick days. While this legislation will not result in significant cost savings, it will ensure fairness, accountability, transparency, and consistency across the state. Another issue in the bill addresses the annual leave payout structure. Currently, administrators hired before 2008 can accumulate up to 60 days of annual leave and receive full payout upon retirement. Employees hired after 2008 are not eligible for this benefit. This legislation will make sure that no annual leave is rolled into sick leave. Additionally, we understand that some education co-ops are processing payroll for third-party entities, raising additional questions. Who are these third parties? What is their sick day policy? And are they employing educators, and are those educators participating in TRS? What are the sick day and annual leave policies of these organizations? This legislation will introduce uniform reporting requirements and oversight of all participating agencies to ensure accountability. It will include mandatory reporting for school districts. PPOB has had discussions with TRS regarding administrative regulations to require detailed annual reporting of accumulated sick days. However, these have not yet been fully implemented. This legislation will mandate such reporting to enhance oversight and long-term planning for school districts and other agencies participating in TRS. If you want a real-world example of what sick days and annual leave, I'll give you a hypothetical scenario. Consider the case of an administrator with 30 years of service and $350,000 annual salary and a 260-day contract who retires with 60 annual leave days and 300 sick days. They could have more than 300 sick days, but this is a scenario that I'm going to give you the final financial impact, the daily pay calculated. So you calculate the daily pay, the $350,000 administrator, and you would get a 260-day contract. That'd be $1,346 per day. The sick leave payout would be, they get 30% of that total for sick leave, would be $403 per day. And the total sick day payout, if you do the math, would be $121,000. And annual leave payout, annual leave is paid out at the full amount. Unlike teachers who get 30% or sick days are 30%, annual leave is paid out at 100%. So that annual leave would be $1,346 per day with a total of $80,769. The lump sum added to final compensation, the $121,000 sick leave, $80,769 annual leave, it makes the final calculation for retirement adds an extra $201,922. And also the school district would write them a check for that amount on the day they retire. They would collect a check at retirement for $201,922 at the expense of the school district. Of course, that would be less than 13.75% that they are required to contribute to TRS. This results in an additional $67,000 added to the final benefit calculation of the high three, which significantly inflates the pension. That leads to an approximately $3,200 per month in additional retirement benefits for sick and annual leave. The total monthly compensation for this individual would be an estimated $25,104 per month. Did I talk too fast? Did you miss any of that? Over a 25-year period, this unfunded liability on sick days and annual leave would amount to close to $1 million, plus 1.5% annual cost of living adjustment, or COLA, yearly, which are largely unfunded and ultimately borne by Kentucky taxpayers. Conclusion, we need to fix this leaky bucket. TRS is facing yearly negative cash flow, and while increment reforms may not result in immediate large-scale savings, they are critical steps to treat all teachers fairly, ensure financial stability, and provide accountability and transparency. This legislation aims to standardize sick and personal leave benefits statewide enhance oversight and reporting requirements for transparency and accountability, ensure financial stability without penalizing teachers, hold school districts accountable for benefits offered beyond TRS coverage limits, and require sick and annual leave policies for all agencies to be on file and transparent, which leads to accountability. Additional provisions in this bill: it adds 30 maternity days for teachers, which cannot accumulate or be used for anything other than maternity leave. It requires TRS to report annual leave and sick day liability yearly, allows school districts to make voluntary contributions to the supplemental account of Tier 4 teachers, up to $5,000 as a sign-on bonus. I will be adding a floor amendment that directs the state auditor to audit TRS and report on all agencies' sick day and annual leave policies. If we do nothing, we risk further increasing the unfunded liability and escalating the state's payment beyond the expected $2 billion in annual payments for unfunded liability, and those are projected to increase anyway, but will affect that even more. Now's the time to have an open and honest conversation. By addressing these challenges today, we can secure a more stable future for Kentucky educators and taxpayers alike. I know that was a lot of information, and if you're not on PPOB, you probably don't understand some of that, so I'd be welcome to explain any of it to any of you who have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Mills.
Senator Higdon, thank you so much for your bill. I know that many of us that are on PPOB have been digging at this, and particularly you have for a while, and it's not easy information to even get to the start line on this, understanding what's actually going on and how the system is being used or operated. But I believe you answered one of my two questions right at the very end. So the first question is, how will the overages days be audited and billed to the school system? So,
and that's a good question. TRS will be directed after July 1, 2026, or 2025. What date was it?
it was 26, I believe.
26.
Yeah.
Any days above 12, they're allowed to have report 12 days, whether it's sick days, personal days, whatever the 12 combination is. They're allowed to report 12 days, and that's if the school district, like I said, we have a school district that allows up to 16 days right now. If they continue to do that, that school district will be responsible for those 4 additional days, and they will be responsible for the actuarial cost of those sick days, which is well above the 30% that they pay at retirement.
That was my very next question is, do we know what 1 day costs, or approximately 1 day costs?
I asked that question, and I got the answer back, and I totally didn't understand the answer. It said $22, but I don't know if that's $22. I haven't followed back up on that. I apologize.
It seems like it should be substantially more than that if you're talking about the effect that it would have out 20, 30 years to a system. So
yeah, I did see a figure, and I'm talking off the top of my head, that for someone making $100,000 a sick day, the value on one sick day, the actuarial value was $600. Now, again, I'm telling you that from memory. But
okay, and I think it's a great analogy, the leaky bucket analogy. I mean, the costs that continue to incur to this system when we've dumped, hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 6 years. We've dumped hundreds of millions of dollars, and Senator McDaniel is in front of me, and he knows well how much that is to the penny. But to only have that increase 2 or 3 percentage points on the funded is just outrageous. And I believe this is one of the biggest leaks that we've got going on. So I'd encourage members to vote aye on this.
Mr. Chairman, may I reply?
Yes, please.
Senator Mills, thank you. And as we dug into it, one of the things that we always concentrated on sick days, which we have some issues with sick days. In the 2017-18 school year, we had one individual that claimed 591 sick days. That's, and then 18-19 school year, 541 sick days was a high number. Last year, the high number was 472 days, which is a lot of sick days. And so we concentrated on that, but we never looked at annual leave. As we start looking at annual leave, and one of the discoveries that I've made, and I can show you, it's in one of the school system. It's in their benefits package that they allow annual leave. That once you reach the 60 days of annual leave that you have that you can accumulate each year, you can then roll that into sick leave. And some school districts allow 20 days of annual leave. So if and 20 days of annual leave, 10 sick days and 2 personal days. So it's not impossible for somebody be rolling over annual leave into sick days. I never knew that was a thing. And again, we have a lot of agencies participating in TRS. KDE's in TRS, TRS is in TRS, KCTCS, and all the universities, and we really don't know what their policies are, and we need to find out what every single policy is and hold them all accountable to make sure that
Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Thank you, Chair. Senator, I won't question you or Senator Mills on some of the technicalities of sick days. I'm still learning. And you are clearly experts on the pension side. And I think the bill does so much. I want to hone in on one portion of it, which is on the maternity paid leave piece. Intimately familiar with the conversation, the concept. So Jefferson County offers paid family leave. Warren County does. Fayette County offers 35 days of paid parental leave. So not just maternity, but paid parental. And so this says, on or before July 1st of 2030, they shall establish up to 30 days. So how does that work with current jurisdictions or current board policies for parental leave?
Well, mine says maternal leave. If somebody wants to change it, this is a process, but mine says maternity leave. And, last year after Senator Tichenor introduced her bill, a lot of school systems started adopting maternity leave. And that, attaboy to Senator Tichenor. And the reason it says to 2030, we have some school districts, it might be a challenge to, financially to do this. So we give them plenty of time to prepare for that. And again, I believe in the process. If it's changed in the House or by amendment on the Senate floor, so be it. It's a process. But my bill says maternity leave.
I understand. And I'm not planning on making amendments. I'm just having the conversation.
Sure.
Mostly since, teachers are not our employees. They're employees of the school districts. And so I know in several of those school districts, they've used the benefit package like this as a competitive advantage to say, hey, come to Lexington or come to Fayette County. We're going to offer you more benefits than, let's say, another county who may not have the depth of a sub pool or whatnot to pay for some of those costs. Because that's really what it is. You're paying for the subs of the people who are coming in, whether the teachers are paid or not. And so I guess I wouldn't want Fayette County to be disadvantaged in the bill by removing 5 days from them to do this, if that makes sense, if a 35 versus a 30. And I'm going to think through and talk through some other school districts to figure out if we need to make an amendment for that, or if it's in conflict at all.
I think the 30 would be a minimum. You could do all that you want, but 30 would be a minimum that you would do.
Okay.
So the Fayette County could still continue to do 35.
If they wanted to, because it says up to 30 paid days,
Well-
which would seem to me as a cap, not a minimum.
Okay. Well, then maybe that language does need to be changed. And I had to see what, does it say that in the bill up to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And forgive me for not reading some of the details more closely.
That's okay, but that's good. I'm glad you caught that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Rocky Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick clarification. So, I guess to simplify this, they will still get paid for their sick days. They just cannot be rolled over into their pension benefits. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I'm misled you. The 12 sick days that this bill allows,
Right.
the maximum, they will continue to count toward and anything they have accumulated so far is
Okay.
not affected. It says that in the bill. It's only starting, this next school year.
Oh, okay.
So, and get a maximum of 12 days. Now,
Right.
where we're talking about they can't roll it over to sick leave was the annual leave that administrators get. Those with 240, 260-day contracts, year-round employees also accumulate annual leave. And they can accumulate up to 60 days of annual leave and use that toward retirement. But what we found is that they max out on that 60 days. And since there's a limit, they're rolling it over into sick leave. And this
Yeah.
bill will prevent them from doing that in the future. I've tried very hard not to be negatively affect
Right.
teachers. I think this has been a benefit that's been around for a long time. I just need to make sure that everybody's operating on the same sheet of music, and a teacher in Casey County is treated the same as a teacher in Jefferson County.
Yeah.
Because this is an unfunded liability. Taxpayers are footing the bill for these sick days. There's the majority of it. Some of it is paid for by the employee when they retire, because on that lump sum that they get,
Yeah.
they pay their 13.75% on that. But to make that to be funded, they should be doing that from day one when they're hired. And
Right. Well, I do, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Quickly, please.
Okay. Thank you for this bill. I know that this is the second time we'll get to vote on it. And
it's new and improved.
okay, new and improved, but I do appreciate all your hard work. So thank you.
I learned a lesson last year. I listened to educators, and they did not want to lose those personal days. So this is 10 sick days plus 2 personal days that they can accumulate for a total of 12 and roll those over.
Senator
Anything they've had in the past is good.
Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 quick questions, Senator, and then a quick statement. Statement might not be super quick. Just so we're clear, beyond 12 days can still be rolled into the pension benefit. It just becomes the responsibility of the district that authorizes those days to pay for the benefit that they have authorized, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, and then secondly, in statute, we mandate a minimum of 10 sick days per year. Is there also a mandate for personal days, or is this just an act of inclusion on your part to allow for those?
I don't think there's a mandate. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
I think I don't think so.
Gotcha. Now, by way of a statement that I will try to be brief, Mr. Chairman, I want to talk briefly about the nature of the teacher's retirement system, to Senator Higdon's point. Teacher's retirement was actually not founded as an actuarially required contribution system like the retirement system. It was a percentage of payroll system. And in essence, what had to happen was there was a 13.5% contribution on behalf of the employee, which was made at the state level, not necessarily at the district level. And the governance board was largely controlled by members of the system for many, many years. What happened is starting about early 2007, 2008, the system began to realize that the statutorily required funding mechanism was not keeping up with the things that were happening. People were living longer, the benefits had grown since its inception, so on and so forth. So about 07, 08, there was a bit of a notification campaign to the executive branch of the desire of the system to receive excess dollars above the percentage of payroll that was required by statute. And I think it's important to note as well that the General Assembly has never failed to make the full payment as required by law to the retirement system. Now, so fast forward from 07, 08, we get into this space where one of the two sides was facing some massive liquidity issues. So there's the pension side, but there's also the health benefit side. So what happened was there was I think it was called shared sacrifice, shared solution. Thank you, Senator Mills. And the shared solution, what it did was it took money from the pension side, shifted it to the health side. The Commonwealth borrowed money, used that to plug the hole back in the pension side of things. And then that was used to temporarily shore up the health system. There's also some additional payments that were made in from the Commonwealth, from the district, from the teachers to try to do all this. In the intervening time, that bill from the teachers' retirement system to the Commonwealth for costs that are beyond what is required and contemplated in statute have only grown with time. In the first budget that we did with Governor Bevin in 2018, for the first time, the General Assembly went ahead and put this additional money above what is required by law into the system. And that, as you say, has continued to grow with time. And it's a pretty regular event when we see an additional request for somewhere between $50 and $300 million per year. Now, people can argue whatever they want on the benefit side of things. But when it boils down to the finance of what is demanded from the Commonwealth, the fact remains that under the originally contemplated system, we are now starting to put in close to over $1 billion a year of excess into this, or will be putting in close to $1 billion a year of excess into this system. This, what you've got proposed here, is a very small step in trying to rein in some of those costs. And your work on the pension system has been absolutely magnificent in understanding it. Because ultimately, you know, while every one of us maintains tremendous concern for honoring the obligations that are made to the teachers, and we will continue to honor those obligations. That's unquestionable in my mind. We also have an obligation to the taxpayers who send us their money that is a result of the work that they do every day. And this probably won't be the only thing that we need to do inside of the confines of ensuring that benefits aren't reduced, that benefits aren't impaired. And I think that there are things that can continue to be worked on in this space. I think this is a good thing, and it's important for people to understand where we started and where we are in the totality of the situation. I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions,
Motion on the bill.
all right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Elkins. Senator Herron.
Yes, please.
Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Explain my vote, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'll vote aye, and I just want to have some just further clarification from legal that maternal coverage would be ruled separate than the paid parental that some counties have already done, so they're not in conflict moving forward. And I appreciate the intent for sure. Thank you.
Senator McDaniel.
Aye.
Senator Mills.
Vote aye.
Senator Rawlings. Senator Tichenor. Chair Nemus.
Aye. The bill passes 10-0 and should do likewise on the floor. That's Senate Bill 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank
This truly does try to help the pension system without negatively affecting teachers. Thank you.
The last item on the agenda is Senate Bill 257. It's sponsored by Senator Tichenor. Please introduce your guest and move on.
I'm Senator Lindsay Tichenor, Senate District 6.
Allison Ball, Kentucky State Auditor. I also have with me my General Counsel, Alex McGuire.
And Chair, we do have a committee sub. Would you like an explanation of that?
Motion on sub.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The committee sub has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the State and Local Government Committee. Senate Bill 257 is really an effort to ensure accountability and transparency of the use of taxpayer dollars. It will create the Office of Government Efficiency within the Office of the Auditor of Public Accounts, and the Office of Government Efficiency shall conduct performance audits and fiscal and operational reviews of state agencies. It will develop and recommend practices for streamlining government operations, and it will monitor the implementation of efficiency-related recommendations and report its findings annually to the Governor and the Legislative Research Commission. SB 257 will allow for the auditor to appoint additional staff as deemed necessary to carry out this charge. Funding will come through appropriations made by the General Assembly and through any federal grants obtained for the purpose of government efficiency. And they will also begin the process, as stated in the committee sub, with a allocation from their restricted funds for the 2025-26 year. This is a continuing effort of fiscal responsibility. Since 2016, the General Assembly has implemented fiscally conservative principles and policies that have led to the largest surplus in state history. This legislation builds upon our effort to create a government that operates efficiently and delivers core services effectively and represents the contributions of hard-working Kentuckians. It is our duty to taxpayers to ensure that we are utilizing their hard-earned dollars wisely and with prudence. And in our efforts as a state to reduce our income tax to zero, this can only help in that measure. As we just heard from testimony from Senator Higdon, he's been working hard on PPOB to uncover some inefficiencies within our pension system that will not only ensure the pension system's future and fiscal health, but it will also save taxpayer dollars. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Auditor Ball so that she can explain further what their office intends to do.
Very good. Well, my office, as you know, exists to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. That is the reason why it was created early on in the history of the Commonwealth. And I think we do that well. We're committed to doing that. And we've been doing that under my leadership for about a year. And we've actually discussed over the course of the last year how to make this better. How do we root out waste, fraud, and abuse? How do we make sure there's compliance with the law? How do we make sure we're being efficient with what we're doing? And what I would like to just emphasize here, this actually is nothing new. The powers to be able to do performance audits have existed for a long time. Auditor Crit Llewellyn did that under her administration. I believe that's the last time that it was used at all, but it was used pretty well and efficiently and committedly under Auditor Crit Llewellyn. It's been sort of left to the wayside for the last few administrations, and that's really a matter of resources. There hasn't been the staffing, there hasn't been the funding available to do that kind of work. So I just wanted to emphasize, this is not a new power, but what this will do is it will allow for the ability to be able to do this work that we believe will increase our ability to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. So I think it's important to understand that. It's not new, but it will make sure this is an ongoing, continual part of the office. It's not a new power, but this will make sure that this is actually happening because it has not happened in quite some time. We're always limited by the amount of resources we have. That's true, I know, for many offices, but it's definitely very true for us. There are many projects we want to take on, many things we hear about, we think are problems. It's just a matter of us, do we have the staff for it? So right now, performance audits exist under our special exams office. This would create a new office for doing those. Special exams right now is made up of 3 full-time, 3 part-time. It's a small office. It's a mighty office. It's one we do a lot of great work in. They're the ones doing the JCPS audit. They're doing the KDE audit. Most things that you all identify that you want us to pursue fall under special exams. This would just expand our ability to do this kind of work, and it also would define it more clearly. Performance audits are about efficiency. They actually are governed by auditing rules, so that should give people a lot of comfort that there are guidelines. We're not just making stuff up and just sort of looking into things. There are guidelines to how to figure out, is this efficient? And that's why we feel like, too, it should be under our deputy state auditor, who is a CPA by training. So special exams have less less restrictive guidance when it comes to auditing standards. Performance audits are more guided by CPA standards, but they will work together to accomplish these efficiency goals.
All right.
Question.
Senator Herron.
I just have a couple of questions. One, currently the General Assembly we have created the Legislative Investigations and Oversight Committee that have full powers to investigate and have subpoena powers. Your mic's not on. It's on. Is that better?
Yeah.
That one wasn't working. Thank you. What I was saying is that currently we do have two bodies here. We have the legislative investigations, and then we have the oversight committee. And so both of those, from my understanding, have full authority to investigate and have subpoena power. Why is it necessary to have a different office? And then what is going to be the fiscal impact of creating this additional office?
So again, I'll just emphasize, this isn't anything new. This already exists in the office. So, the auditor's office works full-time all year long, does many kinds of audits. Some of them are of counties regularly. Some of them are different branches of government. Those happen all the time. So this is a power that already exists. It's not new. It's not new. It already exists right now in this office. But this would allow you to have this happening all the time. As I said, performance audits have not been done since Auditor Crit Llewellyn, a Democrat. She used it very effectively during that period of time. We would like to reinstate that. We don't have the staffing for it, and I'm always concerned that if it's not a continual part of the office, that it gets pushed to the wayside and it's not an ongoing thing. So I think that probably years ago, there should have been a dedicated office to do this, to make sure it continued and it wasn't left to the wayside. Then you don't have a resource problem as much because you have people that are on staff who are always doing it, always working it. So I think that's a good clarification point for that. I think that addresses the question.
And the other question is just what's the fiscal
Fiscal impact.
impact? Will
Yes.
you have to hire more people? How much is that going to cost?
So very good question. So this is not a budget year. We are not asking for any appropriations for this. I do think that probably next budget cycle we'll understand even more what to be asking for. And again, it will always be up to you all to appropriate funds to us. Much of the work that we do is in our office. We actually are a revenue generating office because when we perform audits, many times people pay us for those audits. That actually is an option. I think for performance audits, it's best to have an appropriation because then you're saying this efficiency is so worth it, we're going to invest money into doing it. That's an argument for next year. That's next budget cycle. We do have some language in here that would, and this is not an appropriation, this would raise the restricted fund expenditure. So it's not giving us any more money. This comes from the revenue that we're already generating, and it says you can expend more money than previously. So it's helpful to remember when it comes to the budget cycle, we have money that's appropriated. We have money that we are, so to speak, earning through our audits. But the General Assembly tells us how much of the money we're earning we're allowed to expend. This would allow us to expend more money now this year. The reason why that's important is because it would allow us to go ahead and hire some people for this. It's not appropriation. It's not new money. We're already earning this money. It's just we have to have authority from the General Assembly to be able to expend the money that we're already earning. We're earning it all the time, but we're only permitted to expend what you tell us we can expend.
Senator Mills.
Thank you, Senator Tichenor, Auditor Ball. A couple questions I've heard since we've been talking about this is, will these audits cause the departments where you're looking at to grind to a halt? Where we already have trouble with some of these departments responding to our requests and to the citizens. Will this be done in a manner that will continue to allow them to the wheels of government to continue to turn?
So I think you can take comfort in the fact that we do this all the time. We do audits all year round. We have a process for it. we are very mindful of not slowing down any work that's happening. That's my goal. I want government to be efficient. I want it to not be wasteful. I obviously don't want fraud or abuse. And we craft everything we do in terms of that kind of guidance. So we have a track record. You can see how we do this. You can see how we work. We're very mindful of that. This won't be anything new. This will just give us a team of dedicated people who can focus on efficiency and performance, which I think would be helpful.
Okay. And just follow up statement. Or?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just think that I just want to compliment Senator Tichenor for bringing this. I think this is a responsible government. I mean, these days and times, everybody's looking at every dime in their household budget, and we should be doing the same. And I think it's important to have folks from the auditor's department that has accounting background to look at these issues versus an investigation committee from the legislature. You have the expertise that's needed to kind of follow the dollars all the way through. So thank you so much. I plan to be voting on this. Yes.
Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Auditor, how many people do you think it will require you to staff the office?
That's a great question, and I think I'll have a better answer for you next year. Right now, we're looking at just bare bones because we want to get it off the ground. I think that as we do this year, we'll start to be informed with, do we need some more? We have 3 in our special, full-time, 3 part-time. I would imagine that we probably would need to duplicate at least those numbers. That's what I would think right now. It's subject to change as we get into it, but that's what I would think right now.
Very good. Thank you.
Senator Mays Bledsoe.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Auditor and Senator Tichenor. I recall very well Crit Llewellyn's work with performance reviews back in the day. Do you happen to know how many people she had in her office at that time versus how many you have today?
Oh, that is a very good question, and I wish I had. That actually would have been a great prep question for you. I can find out that answer because there are people who worked here then, so we should be able to dig in. I do know that the numbers were different, and that's one of the reasons why they were able to do performance audits as opposed to what we're doing now.
I think that would be helpful because, I mean, she was a kind of a new voice in that area, a very effective voice in that area, and that was a Democrat who was doing it. This is not, to your point, this is not a new thing to provide government efficiency and accountability for tax dollars. That's the goal, I think, of every elected official, regardless of where they happen to sit or which party they sit. So I'd be curious to see, I know you've done a great job trying to be effective with less people and more money, if you will. So I'd be curious to see how that moves forward. Just for our own comparison, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and Senator Tichenor and I talked over the weekend. You pretty much answered the one I had on restricted funds because, as you and I know, most people don't understand what restricted funds are. They're for a specific purpose. But you have a roundabout restricted fund that is restricted to your office to use kind of as you please, somewhat with our authority on specifics. So it isn't restricted fund FAR A, and then you're divvying into that like we do a lot of times and should not do, like the feds did with Social Security. Okay, so that answers that. But then we were talking about 4.8 million, which is in the bill, the committee sub, out of restricted funds. Do you have that much money in restricted funds?
So there is that much money that we're generating. We're generating that and more. So we won't be asking for anything.
And
anything
next,
new.
as you said, you wanted to start it with a minimal staff. You have 3 and 3 now.
Yes.
The bill actually has 19 different offices and divisions in there. That's 19 people if you only have 1 in each office and division.
So that's just for clarification of what this would look like when this office is brought into the office. Those other offices would not be impacted by this. That's not changing the structure of those other offices, and they're not doing performance audit work necessarily. It's possible we could pull somebody over to help something because we sometimes would do that.
So what you're saying in this committee sub, these are not new offices as it looks like?
Yes, sir.
And you have people in those offices now. Okay.
Yes.
Now, who would be requesting the specific audits? Let's say you wanted to do the labor cabinet. Are you going to pick and choose which cabinet? Because we're kind of emulating the feds, and they're going in wherever they want. So you alluded to that that would be by request of who?
Me. That's the way it exists right now. One of the reasons why the auditor is elected by the people is because you have to put somebody in.
I understand. You answered the question. That's
very
great.
good. Thank you, sir.
Are there any more questions? Do I have a motion on the bill? I see no further questions. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Elkins. Senator Heron.
Pass.
Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Cast my vote and explain.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll cast an aye vote. Senator, Auditor, I'm casting an aye vote to keep this moving. It's a good concept and something we need to explore, but we need to understand the totality of what we're setting up before this thing continues on down the path so that we can really make sure that we get it right. This is one of those situations where if we get it right, it will do wonderful things. If we get it wrong, we will embarrass ourselves, and we have to be right. So thank you very much.
Senator Mills.
I vote aye.
Senator Rawlings. Senator Tichenor. Chair Nemus.
Aye.
9 yeas, 1 pass.
We have 9 yeas and 1 pass, so your bill passes the committee and expect to do so on the floor. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh.
We have a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.